Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to discuss something that I think is super unique, and frankly, a lot of people don't really understand why it is. And frankly, I'm not even sure if I have the right answer, but hopefully, I'll be able to do something that's a little closer to what might be the truth. So, we're going to discuss Dan Hurley and the idea that he was going to go to the Lakers a few weeks ago, and why essentially I think that's a terrible idea, not just for Dan Hurley, but just for college coaches in general, and why college coaches in general should not make the transition to the NBA. All right, the first one we're looking at is Fred Hoiberg. So Fred Hoiberg had a great record at Iowa State. He was 99 and 40, absolutely torched, had some really good years. And frankly, now that he's at Nebraska as well, they're turned around. They went 23 and 11 last year, easily their best year in a long time. I'm kind of a Nebraska fan, so I'm very high on Fred Hoiberg. However, when he was in the NBA, he coached the Bulls for about 4 years, maybe 3 years, something like that. He went 115 and 155 with a losing record. Now, why would there be such a big distinction between college success and NBA lack of success? And the second example we're looking at is John Beilein. John Beilein, in his career at Michigan, went 754 and 425, a massive record. He had one finals appearance, two Elite Eight appearances. However, in the NBA, he made it a record 14 and 40 before getting fired. If you recall him with the Cavs, it was a massive ordeal, not very well liked. It did not work out well at all. Again, major disparity between what he had success in college versus lack of. And then we get to one of the best examples, I think, is John Calipari. John Calipari has had massive success in college, despite what you think recently maybe about his trip at Kentucky. He had success at Memphis, success at Kentucky. He went 813 and 260. That's crazy. That's a great record. He had one championship, one finals, two Final Fours, six Elite Eights over his time period. And when he went to NBA, he went 72 and 112. Again, a negative record. So that's three coaches that have obviously been crazy successful in college, enough to get them hired in the NBA, that all had losing records and made it 3 years or less. Then we get to the first one that had somewhat of a positive record in NBA, and that's Billy Donovan. So Billy Donovan at Florida went 476 and 186, so a very positive winning rate. He had three Elite Eights, one Final Four, and two championships. That's crazy good. In the NBA, he's had a winning record, 399 to 319. He went to the conference finals once with Durant and Westbrook, and every other year he lost in the first round or missed the playoffs. So he's had a positive record, but hasn't been able to mirror the same success that he had in Florida, and obviously had very elite players with Durant. So very good teams that he's been a part of. So he's had success, but nowhere near the same level of success as he had at Florida. And then finally, we get to the man who I believe semi-changed the way we're thinking about this, the way I think about this at least, and that is Brad Stevens. So Brad Stevens, in a crazy short period of time with Butler, took him to a record of 166 and 49, which is unbelievable, and went to two finals appearance with absolutely tremendous games. One of my favorite coaches, maybe my favorite coach. In the NBA, he also had a positive record, a very positive record of 354 to 282. He didn't have any finals. He lost before then, and he had pretty good players. He went into a good system with the Celtics. And so he still wasn't able to exactly translate success. However, he is still with the Celtics right now, but in a different capacity. Right now, he's their general manager instead of their coach. And what happened last year? Immediate finals win. One of the best teams in the last couple of years. Really good team. Why is that? I believe the main reason for this is summarized in the idea that college coaches, you have so much more of a control over your roster and your system that you run based on that roster. So if you think of a college coach, in particular, they recruit players that fit into the system that they want to run. They're able to essentially get, like, if a certain player isn't available, they can get a similar player that's a little bit worse than them. And they have so much more control over the players themselves, because if the players don't want to leave, they can transfer, etc. And if they want to play, they essentially have to listen to what the coach says. They have much more control over the system and the ideas involved. So then we switch to the NBA. In the NBA, the head coach really doesn't have that much control over the players. I'm sure there's discussions, etc. However, they don't get full say as to whether the players they get fit into the system that they're trying to run or the system that they're good at running, frankly. There's a lot more issues with trying to find players, trying to trade for players, getting free agents, etc. It's much more difficult than at the college level. The college level, especially with the transfer portal, you can get players that fit into your system literally within 1 year. In the NBA, it does not work like that. Two, in college, you're much more able to have a period of time where you're able to essentially implement your system and you have some leeway. You have 1 or 2 years where you can build something instead of immediately going to the NBA where you essentially have to win immediately or else you're going to be fired. And we saw these coaches, they didn't last longer than 3 years, they got fired immediately. And so theoretically, when they get hired, they don't have that much time to bring in whatever players. They don't have that much say to bring in whatever players. There's so many more variables that are involved. So then we get to Brad Stevens, and he didn't have that much success as the coach in the NBA, but he didn't have a lot of success as the general manager. And so the reason I believe this is the big change is that he's able to bring in players as general manager that fit an ideal system for him and Joe Mazzulla so much more efficiently than if he was the head coach. So that's why I think if a college coach is going to go to the NBA, the way they should do it is they have to have strong discussions with the general manager or simply be the general manager themselves so they can bring in the right players for the system, because simply being the head coach is not enough to be able to create the system, the impact that you're trying to make. And so that is why I really think Dan Hurley made 100% the right decision in not going to the Lakers. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a blessed rest of your day. Gordon Hayward for the win!